Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Ladies, understand something. The top end of a woman's weight is 145 pounds. Okay. My mother's 5'9" and she was 145 pounds until she was 50. That's the top end of your weight because there should be about a 40-pound difference between you and men.
Basically, if the guy is rich, what ends up happening is the lawyer contacts the person and be like, hey, you know, your name gonna be all in the paper, so you might as well just settle out of court.
I can recognize talent. Even if I don't agree with the politics, a lot of the politics that was underlying in the show and some of the sentiments he was trying to share, I recognize artistry when an artist is present.
Yes, this is the definition of absolutely cooked. We'll never go back and take a look at her bad decision and take accountability for any of that.
Because there is powerful people in the industry, somehow there is a different law that applies to them. And I agree with that assessment.
What's good, YouTube? Peace, blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Don't mind me. I'm pushing through right now. It's Friday, and for some reason, I have a little addiction to the live streams. So even though I'm a little bit under the weather, I wanted to get up here and talk about this. We still got some poetry coming. I got Sydney in the building. Thank you, everybody, for being in the building. If you're not following, follow. I follow back. If you got anything that you're promoting, looking to do interviews, open mics, anything, hit me up. I'm pretty quick with the responses. It really just depends. Tonight, Teyana Taylor, poetry. We got to talk about it. I got Sydney here. I'm about to bring her up. Do me a solid. Make sure you show her some love. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave them in the chat. I highlight them. Sydney, what's up?
Hi, everyone. My name's Sydney, also known as the Science Squid Poetry. And on Blue Sky right now, I'm also on All Poetry. I'm on another writer sharing website that I always forget to mention called Write Scene. I wrote that one, just a shameless plug. If you guys are writers and want feedback on your writing, Write Scene is a really good way to get feedback. It's kind of like a not Craigslist. What's the LinkedIn? It's kind of like LinkedIn, but it's for people that are writing, and it can be anything like play scripts or movie scripts, poetry books, stuff like that. But you can like put it up and then get feedback from people. So if you are writers, that would be a good resource to get feedback on your work before you put it out there. But yeah, I'm on those social media platforms. I also am here regularly. I'm here almost every day. And I also have a few science degrees, so I love to talk about science. I love to educate about things that happen in the world. So if you ever want us to talk about something specific, let us know, and we will talk about it.
Awesome intro. If you wasn't here last Wednesday, that was a pretty good show. Y'all should go spend the block on that one.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'm sure y'all familiar with this story. Teyana Taylor divorced his husband and takes everything. She does not leave a crumb. And everybody is talking about it. Everybody has their own opinions. He's an idiot. It's not fair. She shouldn't get everything out of him. So I just want to break this one down real quick. My initial thoughts: marriage is nothing to play with. That's what I'm open with. There's nothing to play with. Don't get married if you're not ready to be in a serious monogamous relationship. It's just pointless. These two, they just never should have gotten married in the first place, in my honest opinion. Now, I will save and reserve my thoughts on the court hearing and all of that later, but I just want to get your initial thoughts.
I was just looking into the story. I am not hip, and I don't know very much about celebrities very often. So I was just looking her up, and wow, that is a huge settlement. Already shocked by the fact that she's getting 4 houses out of this deal. Like, if they're splitting or something, how many houses do they have? What am I doing wrong that I can't even afford one house and they have at least 4?
No, right?
And I'm assuming this is a car, a $300,000 car, and a Mercedes, and a tour bus, like, and then $8,000 in child support. That child better go to Harvard. Like, oh my God, that is more money than I probably will see in my life. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What did he do, or she do, or what happened?
So apparently there was infidelity on his part. On top of that, mental anguish. He was neglectful. He wasn't really looking over the kids the way he was supposed to, and you know how that goes. As soon as you mention infidelity, or it's not even just infidelity, it's gotten to the point of where you could just say, oh well, I'm bored. I'm not interested here anymore. So let's just call it some made up word as a loophole to get you out the marriage. But yeah, it seems like it was a pretty ugly situation to be in, period. Yeah, I don't know. Like, my thing is, if he stepped out, how does that still allow her to get damn near everything he got? I mean, especially considering things that he accrued before he got married to her. She didn't leave him with anything. And I get it. If the infidelity happened, you're supposed to be compensated, but it's like, what do you need with 4 houses? What do you need with all of those cars? This shit is crazy.
I've never understood people that were into like extreme excess. I live in a 3-bedroom house with a kitchen and a living room, a laundry room, a garage, and we have a tiny little yard. We can barely maintain this by ourselves. Like, I don't understand how people can have these, like, I mean, I guess if you're that rich, you're going to have hired help and whatnot. Like, there's no way you can maintain those properties by yourself because even cleaning my kitchen takes a couple hours, and we have the tiniest little, like, L-shaped counters everywhere kitchen with no extra cupboard space. So I I don't understand how people can have that much and manage it. Like my ADHD can barely handle the stuff that I have right now, the chaos that exists in my household, and my household is not that big and I don't have 4 of them. Also, like all of the paperwork and budgeting and bills and stuff that are going to come with them and the insurance, I'm like, oh god, that would be, I mean, I guess this is coming from a poor person, but I just wouldn't want to have all of that hanging over my head all the time. That just sounds really stressful. And not to mention, the relationship sounded stressful enough. Like, he sounds like a uh, not very nice person to be around. Narcissistic, manipulative, like jealous. He didn't like her being around other people. And yeah, I can understand why she wouldn't want to be in that arrangement. Not to mention, apparently he's had multiple DUIs for drinking and intoxication. So I imagine that that might be why the settlement worked out the way it did, because they might have kind of deemed that she got more of the custody than he did. Like if she showed less um, problematic behaviors, I could see the court deciding to put the children with her more than him, which would mean that she would get more of the resources from him. I know it's also income based. I don't know what their income streams were like, but I know traditionally women do get paid less than men across the board for most careers, but obviously I don't know what they're making, so I can't really make any claims for that. Um, but still, that's a I can see why it's such a messy divorce when they have so much stuff.
I just think it's ridiculous. Why did you even bother to, you don't, how is it that you just brush away all of these red flags? You telling me you didn't see not one?
They did marry young. It's I don't know, I didn't do the exact math, but I think she was in her 20s when they got married. And when you're in a situation of fame, especially at that age, you kind of age yourself up in your mind where you're like, oh, well, I'm rich and famous, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to act older than you are. So this was probably a youthful mistake that once she had kids, she kind of thought to herself that, oh, well, for them, I'm going to try and figure it out. Like, because with the type of person he is, I don't know what type of person she is, but very often, before the person even realizes that this behavior isn't normal, because it kind of like ramps up where it doesn't start that way most often. They usually like ease their way into it. That way the person becomes acclimated to that type of treatment. And then once the person has kind of started to give away their power, because it is a dynamic. If the woman pushes back, he's not able to be as manipulative. But if she's a shrinking violet, if she's somebody that's just going to like, oh, it's okay, like if she's accommodating to his behaviors, he will get worse and worse because he'll realize that it works. And so that could have been the situation where either it took him a long time to show these traits fully, or maybe she held out hope that she could change him, she could get him to stop his behaviors. Because there's a lot that goes through somebody's mind when they're contemplating leaving a relationship, because when you're in something that's that long, it's very hard to sever the ties, because not only is this person a sense of comfort despite them being a sense of chaos for you, they're familiar. Like your brain knows them, knows their smells, knows what their habits, what they look like, the clothes they're wearing, like everything is kind of ingrained into your head as a pattern that your brain is comfortable with. And so a lot of people are resistant to breaking that pattern because our brains don't like change. It's very hard for our brains to adapt to change because for most people, it requires a complete disruption of routine. And a lot of people don't deal with that very well. So it's also likely that she didn't leave earlier because she was stuck in that, like, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to walk away from this. I don't want to come out looking like the bad guy. A whole bunch of reasons. And then also, if he's manipulative, he could have easily been like manipulating her not to leave. So without knowing them, the relationship, their personalities, I can't really say for sure what is making her, or what had made her stay for so long. But my guess is that it was something along the lines of it took her a while to accept it. He probably took a little bit to get there. But once he started showing other unruly behavior, especially as the kids got older, then she was like, you know what? It's actually not worth it to stick around, because I'm now worried about how this is going to affect my kids. Because I'm sure most parents will say the same thing. You can let people do things to yourself, but as soon as it starts to impact your kids, that's it. You're done. You're out, and you don't want to part of that life anymore. So I think that might be kind of where she's at.
I think a few days ago he said that she actually makes more than him, and I'm not necessarily sure how accurate that is, but even still, I never blame one side when things don't work out, right? Because we always blame certain situations on age and lack of maturity, but we never say, you still know right from wrong, whether or not you're young or not. You still know right from wrong. So I'm not really trying to hear that. There's a girl that is, I believe she's 13 years old. She killed her cousin over a video game. No, it was over an iPhone. She killed her cousin over an iPhone. They were fighting over it.
I think I remember this. Wasn't she
Yeah.
like a teen?
She was 13 or 15. The cousin was like 9.
Yep, I remember this.
Yeah, and she covered it up and tried to make it look like she was still asleep. So it's like, I'm thinking about it from a different perspective. She knew that what happened here was wrong, so she tried to cover it up. That takes a level of consciousness. Jason would have labeled he would have said there's 5 5 things that you would, and one of them would be, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
I find myself going throughout the day sometimes, and when I encounter a psychology question, I'll always be like, I should ask Jason what the answer to this.
Mhm. My whole thing is you even at 13, 15, you still know to a certain extent that there's consequences that come with your actions. So my issue with Tiana and Iman is whatever process you guys went through to actually vet each other, it didn't work out. It didn't do exactly what it was supposed to. Because if he's straying, why is he straying off? Is he straying off because he's an NBA player and he can exercise and practice his right to whatever he feels entitled? Did she drive him to infidelity? Not that that's an excuse, but it's always a catalyst. Something always starts to fester for things to start to unfold like that. So on his behalf, like I don't feel bad for him. One, because it's a lot of people out here that's never going to see that type of money. I'm a little angry at the fact that you can afford 4 houses.
Or more, because that
Or
was after the split.
right. A 30,000, 300,000 car. Make that make sense to me. So you propose to this woman and then you fuck up. That sounds smart. Very, very, very intelligent. Congratulations. You played yourself. Like,
Not to mention, when you're that famous, when you do that in your personal life, it's going to affect your public life. Like, you're going to lose opportunities. It's not like us normal people when we have marital issues, it doesn't like prevent us from getting another job in the future. But this could completely bomb your entire life. Like, this could make people look at you and be like, I don't want to employ you. So he, especially himself, he's doing himself a great disservice by uh, going through this process and acting the way that he is. And he's very quickly going to extinguish a lot of his opportunities.
he a whole idiot. A whole idiot. Like, I still want to know what was the point. If you knew unless you had the conversation, which clearly you didn't have the conversation, then why? That's why I don't really feel bad at all. Because if you're this big time NBA player and you have all this influence and you the man and then you shouldn't have no problem telling this woman what it is you want, don't want, and keep it pushing. As far as her, she know better too. I don't think she's innocent at all. I don't know. I mean, based on what I've seen, I don't think that she's uh in any position to critique or criticize him whatsoever. You can have your feelings towards him because of certain actions, but what parts did you play? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
Especially because I know how women can be. And we are very, very much instigators, especially when we're not happy with somebody. So if he has issues with his own, like, he seems to have impulse control issues, and with impulse control issues you're more likely to say things that are uh unfriendly and um not the best things to say to somebody, especially in the heat of a moment. And so I can imagine between the two of them, if you combine that, it definitely wouldn't end well. um, and then also, I don't know how she did during her like pregnancies and stuff like that, but even the hormones can mess with you. I had a lot of issues with my mood after, especially after my son, a little bit after my daughter, but definitely with my son. And I think it was because of um, like when a woman is pregnant with a male child, um, she has testosterone in her body, and so that can make women become like aggressive or angry, just agitated, stressed out. I ended up being just like really agitated all the time. But I wonder if that was a factor for her. Like, she had the two kids. If she went through a period of being like really aggro and was even more bickering than she had been before, like if that was a factor at all.
I'm certain. I'm very certain it was. But it's like you choose this person. You sat there and decided to say yes. And you decided that this is the man that you want to have children with. And I'm guaranteed that you know that this was going to go ugly at some point. I don't believe for 1 second that men and women who get in these, especially celebrities, I don't believe that you get into these relationships and fully 1000% trust these people that you're laying down with. One, because you're both equally wealthy, so you got a chip on your shoulder. Both of you had that attitude. That look at me, I'm a big time. I can go out here and flash and do whatever the hell I want. You can get whoever you want because, like, it's I don't know. Really don't know. It's sad, especially because when people think about marriage, all they see is divorce. They see people getting took for everything that they get. They see everything is revolved around infidelity, lying, deceit, manipulation. There's always something negative that you highlight about marriage, and nobody's really looking for it. Nobody's really trying to put any type of down payment on it anymore. Especially if you're going to end up like him. Ain't no way in the world. You mean tell me I done worked 20 years in my life to do this, build this, and like just like that, all that shit is gone? Oh no.
Fuck you.
I can't do it. There's no way. But I think the problem is we don't know how to properly get to know the individual that we're opening up to. And so what you get is two folks that are going into this thing kind of blindfolded with half truth and information, and well, you see the end result. Awesome. I'm amazed.
I think that's one of the reasons why my husband and I have done so well, is because we lived with each other 5 years before we even chose to get married. Like, we had already been living together and seeing how we were together, like what it was like sharing a space together. And he said that he knew that I was the one because we we went through periods where I didn't have a job, we went through periods when he didn't have a job, we went through periods where we both didn't have a job, where he had to drive me around because I don't remember if I said this before, but I have epilepsy, so I'm not allowed to drive. And when I had my first documented seizure in 2020, and so I lost my license and I wasn't able to go anywhere. Or sorry, no, 2019, because it was before COVID. And so he drove me to work every day. He quit his job just so I didn't have to leave mine because it was the animal shelter job that I loved. And so he left his job so I didn't have to. He also, like, we have lived in tiny, tiny little rooms together, sharing with other people. Like, we've had an apartment together. Um, we've lived out of our car for a short period of time together. So we've seen what up was like, what down was like. We've seen each other's, like, I've seen his periods of issues, he's seen my periods of issues. And this is all before we even decided to get married. When we decided to get married, it was the most unemotional. Like, it was nothing close to Hollywood at all. There was no proposal. There was no, like, whole grand, like, I'm gonna do this thing to ask you and blah blah blah. Like, we didn't go shopping for stuff. We didn't even have a wedding, basically. Like, we went to a hill at sunset. We had our officiant over Zoom, and then his mom and his brother were there, and we just got married there. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. Like, I didn't have to go like $30,000 into debt for this wedding. He didn't have to go $60,000 in debt just to get me a ring. He basically was like, "So, do you want to get married now? I think it's a good time." 'Cause, like, we were pregnant at the time, and so we were like, "Yeah, why not? It's the natural step." And it's, to me, like, that's more beautiful and genuine than I feel like a lot of the people that are swept away by this, like, Cinderella story lifestyle, and they have him propose with the big diamond ring on the beach, and then there's, like, the signs, and the family surprises them with a party, and then they have the wedding, and they go to a island after the wedding, and then they get pregnant, and then they have the baby shower, and they set a wildfire because of their baby shower. Like, there's all these, like, steps that you have to take that people go all out for, and they go way overboard for. And I think that distracts people from whether or not they're actually in a good relationship. Like, all of the good relationships that I've encountered in my life were all super low key. They were all very basic. They showed preference for substance over show. And there was never any, like, "Well, yes, we've been together for like 15 years and blah blah blah." The people that need to showcase the relationship aren't happy either. It's mostly the people that just kind of, like, live their lives and recognize that each other have their flaws, and all you have to do is, like, push through them. And like, obviously there's situations that do call for divorce, even if they do get along, like substance abuse, or if it's literally like they're not healthy, they're not compatible for each other, they have issues. But I think a lot of people are blinded by the needing to have a fairy tale romance and wanting to push past things that are actually abusive or actually not a good fit for them, just because they want this fairy tale Instagram worthy lifestyle.
Yep. You know damn well it's not a single soul out here right now that's about to live in a car with a guy. It's not happening. That's very, very rare. And I do believe you should live with a person before you decide to propose. That's the if you really want to find out who a person is, be under the roof with them for an extended period, not a week, no, not a month. You got to really be in there, like toothbrush, underwear, all that. Then you'll know. Unfortunately, that's not what we have anymore. What we have is a quick fix You want to live a lavish lifestyle. That's their business, though. You know what they do moving forward. Who knows? Now let me ask you a question. How long before you move in with someone?
I think it depends on how comfortable you feel. Truthfully, Mick and I kind of moved in right away in some capacity because he basically like we met in over Thanksgiving break, and then I like over a social media app, and then we talked for like a month. And then around Christmas, he came to visit me for the first time at my mom's house. And then after that, when I got to school, then he started to regularly visit me at school. He came like once, and then the second time he came, I was just like, I just enjoyed him so much. Like I enjoyed hanging out with him and stuff. So I was like, "Do you want to just stay longer?" So he stayed longer, and basically from that point on, we were living together. Like he, uh, don't do this, people. He illegally stayed in my dorm room with me. We hid him in my dorm room. I hated my roommate. They were really terrible people. They literally had like Hakuna some vodka posted on our wall. They were the type to like go to the bar just to get drunk and hit on a bunch of guys. And like they talked in a really high pitched voice. They drove me nuts. So I I did not feel bad that I was doing it. So he stayed with me in that dorm, and then I ended up transferring and going to a different dorm because I just could not stand living with them. And then they also were trying to break a bunch of rules. So I'm like other dangerous rules. Like they wanted to live in the laundry room. And I was like, no, I'm not trading in my laundry room just because you want your own space when you paid for a double. But we ended up moving to a different dorm space, and they let him stay there. And then my senior year, we also got a roommate dorm situation. And then after that, we went to a hotel, apartment. And then we started, after we couldn't afford the apartment, we just stayed at some other places. But we've basically been living together our whole relationship, but I only did so because I felt incredibly comfortable with him. I like the first night he spent with me, he didn't make any moves to try and get me in bed or anything. Like he was very, very respectful of my space. Um, and so I could tell just from his vibes, the way he talked to me, the way he um, even talked about like his family, um, that he was trustworthy. Like you can definitely tell with like, I mean, I guess I'm more sensitive to people's motives because I'm a very anxious person, so I'm always like putting more thought into people's words than should be there. But I've noticed that it makes it easier to kind of tell when somebody's attempting to manipulate me. Like to me it just kind of stands out like flashers. Because there's certain terminology they'll use, there's certain like body language, they'll be attempting to get close to you, they'll be like trying to enter your space, trying to find reasons to get near you, and being like weirdly flattering, not like the casual, oh wow, you're pretty. Like they'll be like, wow, you're like the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You're an artist, right? I should come do paintings with you. Like it's like, okay, this is getting weird. They're very non-organic. But you like being able to like have that feeling with them, like knowing that it's a safe environment. It's a safe relationship. He like there have been some people where even their language put me off. Like they used too much slang, or they talked very negatively about their family or their friends or other people. And like a lot of those types of things, even though it seems small and people could brush it off as a joke, I think it's really more of a reflection of who they are when nobody's looking. It's just little slivers that come out, um, to for them to gauge where other people are at. And so like all of those little tiny comments are just peeks at who that person is underneath. And so I guess by because I'm so picky, um, and I get really uncomfortable with vibes of many types. um, when I finally met him and he felt so comfortable to me, I knew that he was the one. Like there was like a voice in my head when I met him that was literally like, "This is the one that you're gonna marry," and it just it was like the sensation that I found a family with him. And I even like got along with his mother-in-law, I got along with his friends. um and I think, I mean, it's hard for me to say if this is the general experience, because I put a lot of effort into making sure that I'm cognizant of my surroundings, that I do research on everything. I try to be as thorough as possible when I make decisions. And so I think that I do have a lot more capacity for insight than a lot of people do, especially ones that completely revolve their life around like the internet and social media and stuff like that. Um, but if you genuinely pay attention to the person, I think you can tell right off the bat if they're going to be safe for you or not. But you just have to actually pay attention to those signs and pick up on those signs, because there's definitely a lot of people that are so swept away by their their fakery that they just don't realize it until they settle in and all of the magic disappears, and then they're able to see what was behind the veil the whole time. And I think that's why so many people in those types of relationships are just like hit over the head. Like I've seen so many women that were just gobsmacked that their husband could have done that, and they're like, I had no idea. I never thought this could happen to me. I would have in a 1,000 years never expected him to run away with his secretary who is 20 years younger than it. Like they just are quiet. It's not because it was unexpected, it was because they weren't paying attention. They didn't see the signs, they brushed off the signs, they apologized for him. And this goes for both ends. Like I'm not even saying it's just men. Like women do it too. And the husband, oh no, she's a good wife. Like she's at home cooking and cleaning and blah 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 blah. Like people want to make excuses for their loved ones because they don't want to accept that they could be actually not caring and don't actually want to be in the relationship. But if you have a lot more thought into what you're doing, I just think you're going to pick up on that much more easily, and you won't fall as hard for fake BS that some people can put out there.
What was I about to say? Hold on. I just had it. It left. I hate when that happens. What I was going to say is, I don't really, if you're going to be in a monogamous relationship in Hollywood, I think that's going to be like in the industry, period. Hollywood, the music, all any of it. I think that's got to be the most difficult thing that you could do as far as because there's too much demand, way too much. Both of you are successful. Both of you on the road. How do you make that work? I can only think of a handful of people, and most of them don't expose none of their personal life on social media.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just a free fall.
You also open yourself up to the chance for more like jealousy and stuff like that, because in a domestic life you're not constantly going out there and being seen with other people and whatnot. Like, it's just your coworkers, your friend, maybe your neighbor. But like celebrities are like, you have to take pictures with these people and this singer and that person and that producer, and like I can definitely see how that would be rife with husbands being like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, why are you taking a picture with him? Or vice versa, like women coming home, like, why are you doing a photo shoot with these people? Why are they in bikinis? Like, so I could definitely see a lot of space for distrust to build as well.
I couldn't do it. I would not want to. I wouldn't want to deal with nobody that's famous. One of us are going to have to be normal. That's my preference, though. I'm sure there's people who think it can work. I think it's a headache. I think you would just be unhappy and miserable most of the time because you're not going to always get what you want. There's no guarantee.
I think it takes a certain type of personality to be famous. And very few of those personalities are great with relationships. Because I think being in a relationship and being famous are kind of the antithesis of each other. Because when you're in a relationship, most people want their relationship to be one of their priorities. And when something is your priority, that is something that you want to give the most of your time and energy to, especially once you have children. And if you are trying to be famous and trying to be in the scene, that is going to have to become your priority, because fame is not something that it's like the same with any business. If you want to start up a business or write a book or be a professor or whatever, like, you can't just dabble here and dabble there to become famous. Like, you have to constantly like look for gigs, look for interviews, look for dancing thing, whatever you're trying to be famous for. Like, you constantly have to be getting yourself out there, and that removes the time from your spouse. um I was actually thinking about this myself just the other day, because I would absolutely love to be a famous author and be able to go all over like reading my poetry and stuff like that. But I was thinking about how it's kind of against what I want for myself. I want a very simple, meaningful life. Like, I want to be able to connect with people on a more personal level in a way that helps them change for the better. Like, I want to be somebody that can be there for others and be like a source of wisdom for other people. And I don't need to be famous to do that. Like, I don't have to be uh like JK Rowling or whatever and have to like go to photo shoots and stuff just to be influential. And that, like, I think a lot of people think that they can do everything. They can have it all. They can be everything. But they don't realize that to be everything in something, you have to sacrifice a bunch of other stuff. You're not going to be able to maintain a very fulfilling, like, you do everything together relationship and also putting your entire life into your career. It just doesn't work because we all only have 24 hours in a day and we have to sleep almost half of them.
Yep. Oh man, my final thoughts on this whole thing. You did it to yourself. This should be an example to people. Pay real close attention to the individuals that you decide to be intimate with. There's nothing wrong with waiting for that part. There's nothing wrong with really getting to know a person before you go the extra mile. Maybe he'll learn. Maybe he'll learn to stop sleeping around, being foolish with his spending habits, learn some discipline, and her as well. Like, that's all I got to see. Do you have something that you want to read for us?
I have a couple that I think would fit. Let's see. I have one that I wrote recently, which is about I personally wrote it about the fact that I partially because I can't drive, but also I'm kind of a homebody. I don't go out very often. And when I do go out places, I like to go to very specific places like the aquarium, the beach, go on a drive. Like, I don't do girls' day outs going shopping. Like, I don't do all that. But that can make me be kind of a flake with people because I don't often commit to going out places. And so they'll often be like, hey, do you want to go to this place? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And then later I don't actually go. So I wrote this poem about that. But I thought it would be fitting because it really speaks to, like, you can't do everything. It doesn't have a name yet. I said I would be there. I said I would call. I promise you, this time I will. After I finish grocery shopping, after I finish the dishes, after I finish the laundry, after I finish tidying up, after I finish paying these bills, after I finish the mending, after I finish the projects I've collected in preparation for someday. I said I would be there. I said I would visit you. I promise you. This time I will. I just have to finish fixing the sink, fixing the floors, fixing the roof, fixing the cars, fixing myself. I just have to sort out these papers and clothes in place of these traumas. I just have to get my world straight so my mind can follow. I need to fix everything. I need everything to be perfect because I need you to love me first before I can let you in. Because you can't know that I'm broken. You can't know that this is the reason I was never there for you. Because I was never there for me. When I said I'd be there, I wasn't. When I said I'd call, I didn't. When I said I'd visit, I never showed. When I promised you, I broke it. This time was the last time because I announced with my silence that you were nothing, with my absence that you weren't worth my time. Though my silence was my own loneliness, my own anxiety, my own pain. I do not deserve you because I am imperfect. And I broke you all because I tried to be everything perfectly for you. I showed up as only a shadow, and now as I sit among my sad projects, my cobwebbed home, my empty soul, I wished I had been there. I wished I had called. I wished that when I promised you, this time I was there. I am sorry, for now I am left with only me.
Sensational.
I thought that was fitting because it's basically like letting other things take the place of human connection. And I think that's one of the trade-offs that people make, is when they drive for fame or drive for stuff, they're letting all of that stuff get in the way of what they could actually be doing, what they could actually be like they could be creating. They could be creating connections, creating a business, creating like stuff that helps them inside. But a lot of people kind of get distracted by all of the physical stuff.
Well written.
Thank you.
Well written.
I have another one that I think would be a good fit. This one I think would apply to the ex-husband. This one I wrote about narcissism, kind of. Not necessarily like the strong narcissism, but the type of like self-assuredness that puts people off. Those type of This one's written specifically about a man, but the types of people that are just so like, I'm better than everyone else, that it's quite annoying to be around them. So this is called Hiding Amongst Yourself. Insensitive existence, filled to the brim with the intoxicating brew of self. You beat to your own drum, for yourself, and in spite of yourself. You shall seek your own peace, damming your windows and your doors, so you can steep with all that you achieve and believe, regurgitating everything you deem meaningful onto unwillings and soft sensitives, your tantalizing facts and figures settling like butter because they don't retort, they don't contort, as you continue to report on yourself, to yourself, through others' ears. Obey thyself, never mind them. You try to lie, yet tiny fissures, pried by denial, designed for your revival, threateningly leaking slivers of fragility, testing the structure of your entirety. For ego might be your home, but ego will never be your heaven.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite poetry lines that I've written.
That was smooth as butter. Sorry, folks, for my lack of like energy. I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm pushing through. You know what I'm saying? You're a trooper for pulling up and doing this tonight, because I was like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? And I was like, I do this Friday, I do this all week, so I'm gonna go ahead and push through. I'm gonna try to rest tonight. Hopefully when I get up tomorrow, I'll be better. But yeah, shout outs to you, shout outs to everybody that pulled up today. Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. I'm glad we got to talk about this, and I'm glad I got to read poetry as usual.
Yeah, we needed that. I didn't want to go another week without not having that. So
Yeah. My other poetry thing got canceled today too, so I was like,
again, it's all good. It's all good. Well, I'm not going to hold you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Shout out to everybody in the building. I may see y'all tomorrow, I may not. It depends on how I'm feeling. So send some prayers up for me, some healing prayers, so I can get back, because I don't like being in this.
We don't either.
All right. I'm gonna see y'all. Y'all have a blessed evening.
All right.